I would like to see the evidence. What I'm saying is...
You think after 10 years of public life, you wouldn't know it already?
No, I don't.
No,
that's exactly the point.
Oh, my goodness.
Scott,
this is an IQ test. Don't fail it. Come on, man.
Scott,
10 years Donald Trump has been in public life.
That's embarrassing.
Come on.
Scott, it is an IQ test. I mean, for 10 years, we haven't heard any names. So you really think that no one's involved?
No, obviously. Larry Summers was involved. Stacey Plaskett was involved. There's all kinds of people involved with Jeffrey Epstein.
If someone was involved, we would know about it. They would be prosecuted. It would be done and dusted. The last 10 years, no one has been prosecuted for this. Is that a sign that nothing has happened?
No, absolutely not.
So then why are you saying that is the case for Trump?
question directly to him is, if you think after 10 years, 3 presidential campaigns, and Democrats unleashing holy hell on him, you wouldn't know about it?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Just real quick, I just want to bring it back to something that just happened. I feel like I just heard Scott call into question this black man's intelligence with the IQ test.
That's what you heard.
I feel like I heard that. And so I just want to say something. This is what it sounded like.
You want to make it racial, go ahead, but it's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I think that...
By the way, we know each other and we're friends. I know this man. He's a smart guy, and we're having a debate. We're having a debate. Don't make it into so. We don't even know each other, but we do.
This actually relates back to the topic that we're having, Scott. There is you're sitting here with so much confidence without seeing all of the documents that Donald Trump is innocent. There is a presumption of guilt that a black man walks around the United States with, that I have been watching Donald Trump navigate this situation with the presumption of innocence that is never afforded to us, right? This is the same guy that is trailing 29 rape allegations. And we have videos of him saying things like, grab him by the you-know-what. Just the very fact that he's connected to the country's most egregious pedophile, enough. That fact alone is enough for us to ask questions about if it's a disqualifying factor for leadership. So I just don't know why you're so fervent right now saying that I know for a fact he has nothing. Can we see the files and make that decision? Scott?
Look, here's what I think. It's been going on for 10 years. If there was a shred of anything to know about Donald Trump, we would already know it.
Boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the Epstein files witch hunt that is currently backfiring on Democrats, okay? And the reason why it's backfiring is because despite the release of these emails between Jeffrey Epstein and Democrats, what we've learned about Jeffrey Epstein and his relationship with President Trump is that he hated Trump, right? He had a severe case of Trump derangement because President Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago for recruiting girls at Mar-a-Lago. President Trump has made it clear that when Jeffrey Epstein was doing creepy things, right, at his estate, he said, you're gone, right? You're out, right? He distanced himself from Jeffrey Epstein. He was not involved with Jeffrey Epstein after Jeffrey Epstein initially got convicted of soliciting a minor for, prostitution. But Democrats were involved, right? They were heavily involved with Jeffrey Epstein.
Some of you will have seen my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back from public activities for a time, but I think it's very important to fulfill my teaching obligations. And so, with your permission, we're going to go forward and talk about the material in class.
In fact, Hakeem Jeffries, the current leader of the Democrat Party, he tried to get donations from Jeffrey Epstein. Now, whether or not he actually received donations and had dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, which Hakeem Jeffries invited Jeffrey Epstein to have dinner, we don't know, right? He is currently denying any association with Jeffrey Epstein on CNN as Democrats are now getting confronted on the fact that the Epstein files witch hunt is now backfiring on them. Because again, what we've learned about this is that Epstein hated Trump and he loved Democrats.
The White House has been highlighting an email that I'm sure you've seen today that Jeffrey Epstein got in 2013. They say it shows you were soliciting money and dinner from an Epstein. The email was not sent from you. It was sent from a political consulting firm called Dynamic SRG that says, we are thrilled to announce we are working with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Shoot us an email or give us a call if you would like to get involved. What's your response? Do you recall that email being sent to Jeffrey Epstein from that team?
Yeah, of course, I have no recollection of the email. I've never had a conversation with him, never met him, know nothing about him other than the extreme things that he's been convicted of doing. And that's why, I'm just strongly supportive of the effort, backing the survivors to make sure that everything can come out, whatever is in those Department of Justice files.
So you never got a donation from Jeffrey Epstein or anything like that?
Certainly not.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, right? We do know for a fact there was a Democrat that did take money from Jeffrey Epstein, Delegate Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands, who is in hot water for not only taking donations from Jeffrey Epstein, but also getting caught texting Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing against President Trump, right? So another witch hunt against President Trump. Democrats and Jeffrey Epstein were involved in. They were colluding together to go after the President of the United States. Now, Stacey Plaskett here was facing a condemnation from Congress. She was facing a censure and also being removed from her committee assignment. However, that vote failed, and allegedly the reason why it failed, word on the street, is that Republicans actually decided to have 3 of their own members vote to save her in order to save a Republican, Corey Mills, who's allegedly facing some allegations that I really don't want to get into because honestly, I don't know that much about it. But word on the street is that Republicans said, hey, we're not going to remove this woman. We're not going to punish this woman because Democrats are going to turn around and force a vote on the floor to punish a Republican, right? So that's essentially what happened. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think that they should have punished her anyways. And, whatever happens to Corey Mills happens to Corey Mills. But they definitely should have punished this woman, okay? Because Democrats are running around basically trying to accuse anybody, not anybody really, just President Trump, let's be honest, and Republicans. They're trying to accuse President Trump of essentially being a pedophile because Jeffrey Epstein hated him, right? That is what they're doing. So if that's what they're going to do, if that's the game they're going to play, then anybody associated with Jeffrey Epstein, especially individuals who ask for money and dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, like, for example, Hakeem Jeffries and Stacey Plaskett, who took money from Jeffrey Epstein and colluded with Jeffrey Epstein, yeah, they should be punished, because we know that if the shoe was on the other foot, if Democrats actually got what they wanted, which is for a Republican or Trump to be guilty of something, okay, or to be actively working with Epstein, to be in bed with Epstein, like Democrats, we know for a fact, were in bed with Epstein. If the roles were reversed, Democrats not only would have tried to remove the Republican from their committee assignments, censured them, and also on top of that, they probably would have tried to remove the Republican from Congress, period, okay? If President Trump had taken money from Jeffrey Epstein, right? If President Trump had did the same thing that Stacey Plaskett or Hakeem Jeffries did when it came to Epstein, they would be talking about impeachment, right? I mean, they're going to be talking about impeachment regardless, but I mean, they would honestly really try to impeach the president over that. That's what they'd be doing. So it seems to me that the GOP, once again, they're showing us that they're soft, okay? And they wonder why people can't get excited to get out and vote for them because of stuff like this. When they got an opportunity to actually hold Democrats accountable and to give them a taste of their own medicine, they fold every single time. So with that being said, that doesn't stop Democrats from going through the embarrassment of having to deal with the fact that the files or the disclosure is backfiring, because we haven't learned anything about Trump, but we've learned a lot about Democrats. So without further ado, let's get into CNN confronting Stacey Plaskett on colluding with Jeffrey Epstein.
All right. Well, we are just learning that the Senate has now sent over that legislation on releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files over to the president's desk. We're monitoring that. Also, you have, this ongoing Epstein saga, Wolf.
And there's a lot of drama still unfolding. The Epstein saga hasn't been without controversy for Democrats as well. The House last night narrowly rejected a Republican effort to censure our next guest, Democratic Delegate Stacey Plaskett, over a text she exchanged with Epstein during a 2019 congressional hearing with President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen. 3 Republicans joined all Democrats to defeat the effort to remove her from the House Intelligence Committee, with another 3 voting present. Congressman Stacey Plaskett of the U.S. Virgin Islands is joining us right now. You're a delegate, a non-voting delegate right now. Tell us a little bit about your reaction to all these late developments.
Well, first I want to thank the Democrats, the Democratic caucus, not only for voting with me, but for speaking on my behalf during the general debate, as well as those members in the Republican Party who voted with the Democrats and those who tacitly voted with us by either voting present or not voting at all during the censure. And I'm hopeful that we can now get back to the work that we do in Congress rather than the political theater that has been happening.
Well, you need to talk to your own party about that, right? Because let's be real. The political theater is happening because of Democrats, okay? Democrats who did not care about this at all for the last 4 years, okay? Because there's nothing there. Let's be honest. They don't give a damn about the victims. They don't care. All they care about is trying to go after Trump, right? That's why Trump is calling this a hoax. It is a hoax, right? The witch hunt against him is a hoax, okay? And for a Democrat to sit on national television and to claim, well, I want to get past the political theater and get back to work. Talk to your own party about that, right? Your own party set you up, right? It's your own party's fault that you got exposed texting and colluding with a convicted sex offender, right? That's your own party's fault.
The files have been released, which I have been in favor of all along. And let's let the victims get their justice and let us get to the work of Congress. We've been on over a 70-day paid time off. Democrats have been doing town halls, coming back to Congress. Republicans have been nowhere in sight. And the people of this country are in need of our support and of the work that needs to be done.
We know that Epstein had property in the Virgin Islands, right?
Yes.
What was your relationship with Epstein?
So Jeffrey Epstein was a constituent. He was a resident of the Virgin Islands, lived there, I guess, more than half of the year because he was registered there. I had received donations from him after the last investigation came out, which was after this texting. I gave any donations that I had previously received from him to women's organizations and did not have any contact with him.
Right. We're going to need to see proof because right now she's lying. Right. She's lying big time. She's claiming that the text exchange that we're talking about during a congressional hearing with Michael Cohen, which happened in February of 2019. She's claiming that, well, this was before she knew about the allegations against him. That's not true because the investigation, the second investigation, the federal investigation against Jeffrey Epstein began back in 2018. The Miami Herald expose made this a national news story. So when this woman was texting this man in Congress, right, having Jeffrey Epstein literally guide her, okay, on her line of questioning because she's too dumb, right, to ask the questions herself. And also on top of that, because Jeffrey Epstein is her financier, okay, probably her, her PIMP, let's be honest. Let's keep it 100 because all these politicians are for sale. Let's be real. But anyways, yeah, it was well known that this man was under federal investigation. She knew for certain at the time that he was under federal investigation, but she didn't care. She didn't care at all. She decided that she would allow him to ask questions through her mouth during a congressional hearing. She should be removed from Congress. Let's be real. She should be removed from Congress. If this was a Republican that did that, Democrats would be demanding that they be removed from Congress. That's what they be doing right now. The fact that this woman is still in Congress, it shows you that the GOP is weak, right? They're too weak right now. Because again, if this was a Republican, they'd be gone. They would have been gone yesterday. So I want you guys to understand, she's lying, okay? When this text message exchange occurred, first of all, she solicited donations from him back in like 2013, 2014, right? So she has been in bed with this dude for a while, right? Asking for donations, okay? Taking money from this guy. But again, specifically, when the text exchange occurred in Congress, it was in 2019. The federal investigation against Jeffrey Epstein had already become well known at that point, okay? The Miami Herald did an expose on Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody knew about this. This was basically at the height of when the second investigation into Epstein was happening, right? When this became a national news story once again. She definitely knew 100%.
But like many constituents, individuals get your phone number, they text you about issues, they speak with you. I have spoken with him about issues that are relevant, things that are going on in the Virgin Islands and elsewhere around the country.
Right, but
yeah, but see, again, he was telling you what to say, what questions to ask during a congressional hearing. That's not the same thing as casual text with a constituent. By the way, again, we're talking about a convicted sex offender, right? That's the constituent that she's talking about here. But you're not having your constituents tell you exactly what questions to ask during a congressional hearing. And you're talking about somebody who donates to your campaign. These politicians are bought and sold, and they will sell themselves literally to anybody, right, for campaign donations and also to go after Trump.
But on that day that we're talking about, you initiated the text exchange at 7:55 in the morning. So why were you even texting with Epstein at the time?
Ding, ding, ding. She initiated the text exchange. This was not Epstein randomly reaching out to her, right? With a hey, good morning text. No, it was her reaching out to him. She reached out to him first.
And he was a known sex offender then.
Sure. I explained to people, I've been a prosecutor for many years. And there are a lot of people who have information that are not your friends, that you use to get information to get at the truth. This was 7 years ago, and people need to understand this was a huge hearing that was taking place with Michael Cohen finally coming forward to talk about monies that he had with the hush money, potential hush money that had been paid to Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet about the allegations against Trump.
AKA, it's okay to work with Jeffrey Epstein to go after Trump. That's what she's saying on national television. It's okay to work with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, again, remember, anybody, well, put it this way, Republicans and Trump, any association they have with Jeffrey Epstein, right? Even if Epstein hates Trump, Democrats and the liberal media, they're basically trying to say, well, this is proof that Trump is a pedophile. But Democrats actively working with Jeffrey Epstein, taking donations from them, taking commands from Jeffrey Epstein on how to ask questions, or what questions to ask during a congressional hearing. Nothing to see here. You don't understand. This is justified because Trump bad, right? Trump evil. We were going after Trump, so it's okay to collude with Jeffrey Epstein. It's okay to get in bed with this guy because we hate Trump. That's what she's arguing.
We were entering a hearing. Lots of people were texting me. Lots of people were giving me information. And I find it really interesting and almost rich that the Washington Post took 30 seconds, one set of question line that I did, and say that Epstein was directing me as to what to question Michael Cohen. I have 5 minutes of questioning. I had a lot of questions, 20 years of experience that I had at the time, along with other information I was getting from many sources about issues that should have been raised. And I also want to say that the issues that I raised in that hearing related to individuals who were closest to the president and who could know about money has never been looked into.
Right, and we have the full transcript right here. But, and no doubt you have an impressive resume, right? You're a former federal prosecutor. You were an impeachment manager. But yes or no, if Epstein had not brought up Rona to you in that text, would you have asked Michael Cohen about her independently?
Probably not. I asked about 3 other individuals as well. Everyone knew, other people knew that this woman had been the president's assistant. I talked about other individuals who were also close to him that other people had given me information about, that I'd found other information about. And there were other issues that I talked with him about as well, Michael Cohen, that I brought up during that time.
Right.
So as a prosecutor, as an investigator, you glean information, get information where you can. Some of it is relevant, some of it is not, and you put it all together and you ask the questions.
And I understand you're saying, look, he was a constituent, right? And whether or not they're good or bad, you're just trying to get information to get to the truth. But at this time, this was happening after he had already pleaded guilty to state prostitution charges. And then there was that Miami Herald article that came out in 2018 detailing how widespread the sexual abuse was, interviewing 80 women who said that he sexually abused her. So, abused them, I should say. So I'm wondering, as you look back, do you think that it was an error in judgment to be communicating with him at all? Do you have any regrets?
Well, listen, I think Jeffrey Epstein is a reprehensible person. Absolutely disgusting. I lived in a house during childhood with a mother who had been sexually abused by her dad. And I know the effect that had on her, as well as us as her family. And so I understand what the victims are going through, and I want them to get their their justice, their peace out of this. I believe that Jeffrey Epstein had information, and I was going to get information to get at the truth. Having a friendship with him is not something that I would deemed to have.
Wow.
And so I'm just looking forward. I'm moving forward. And I think that that's what we as American people should do, is move forward. If individuals are not involved in illegal activity, extending his criminal enterprise or his financial enterprise or all of those things, I think that we need to look at what people are doing moving forward.
Wow. Whoever coached her through this answer, right, through this interview, did a terrible job. So yeah, I want you guys to understand what she's saying. Jeffrey Epstein is reprehensible. She said she personally is dealing with individuals in her own life who are victims of sexual abuse. But yet, despite all that, working with Jeffrey Epstein, colluding with this guy, taking campaign donations as well too from this guy, which she initially refused to give back, by the way, right? When she was exposed, initially she refused to give them back, okay? And then she essentially was forced to give it to charity, right? But she's saying that despite all that, her hatred of Trump, going after Trump, the witch hunt against Trump, was much more important, right, than her own integrity. Fascinating. There's no bottom with these people. There's no bottom. They're like, yeah, we'll work with Jeffrey Epstein, who, by the way, they're trying to make out to be the worst person in the world. But see, when Democrats get caught up in this stuff, now all of a sudden as well, see, if you weren't really involved with any criminal activity, just because you had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, that doesn't make you a criminal. That doesn't mean that we should be focused on that. We need to move on, right? Now they want to move on. But none of this logic applies to President Trump, which clearly at this point, we can see that at one point in time, he may have been friends with Jeffrey Epstein, but he cut Jeffrey Epstein off a long time ago, right? He cut Jeffrey Epstein off, and Democrats were getting in bed with Jeffrey Epstein, right? I mean, they've been in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. Let's be real. They were strengthening their relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, despite knowing that he was a convicted sex offender. But again, the only thing they want to talk about is Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which has been well documented. No criminal activity, no evidence whatsoever. All their victims have said, yeah, I never seen Trump do anything. All of them. There are no credible accusations against the president. Not one. But again, we have evidence and proof of Democrats in bed with Jeffrey Epstein, taking money from Jeffrey Epstein. You got Larry Summers, Clinton and Obama guy, literally talking to Jeffrey Epstein about relationships, relationship advice, women. Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrat Party, begging for donations, inviting Jeffrey Epstein to dinner. But all they want to focus on is Trump. All they want to talk about is Trump. Again, this is why the president calls it a hoax. So, like I said, man, and I'm going to double and triple down on this, right? Whatever gets released is not going to be what these people have been begging for. If anything, it's going to hurt the Democrats. And I'm almost sure, right? I'm almost sure that Democrats are going to regret going down this rabbit hole, right? When these files, if these files are actually released. Because I think that there's a lot of dirt on Democrats that's about to get dug up. And this is just the beginning. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.